Boom. Welcome back. Part two, playoffs, Sunday. Ravens, Titans, Bears, Saints, Browns, Steelers, back to back as they just played this past week. So that's pretty hilarious. Get some bad blood going, hopefully. But yeah, we're going to just hop right into this. We're doing it as the Slate video. So what you'll see on your DFS. But I'll just jump right into it with my QB. I'm going Drew Brees here, 201 yards, 3 TDs. I just think they picked the Bears apart and beat them big time. One of those lopsided games of the three. As we were saying in the last video, there's lots of good defenses. There's lots of good options. To me, I'm just leaning to the one game that I think will just be the biggest gap, and that's this one. So I'm leaning with Drew Brees there. Tarin, what do you think of QB?
It's a good take. I mean, this is the biggest spread game. I think it's 10-point favorites for New Orleans here. 47.5-point total for the game. Vegas odds right now, and that's huge. 10-point favorites, just massive, especially in a playoff game. You don't see that very often. So the actual biggest game on this whole slate is the first one, Baltimore at Tennessee. It has a 55.5-point total, and these teams tend to shoot out with each other. I don't know what it is about the two, but they tend to just battle, and it tends to be high scoring, even though, they're both Tennessee defense has been bad, but Baltimore is usually a pretty good defense, but not against Tennessee. So I actually leaned to a quarterback in that game, but I went the other side of the ball that everybody's expecting me to go, and I went Ryan Tannehill. Highest, like, this game's got a high total. Baltimore usually gets up early. They have a tendency to run the ball early and get up with Lamar. He rushes for TDs, especially lately. Tannehill's rushed 5 TDs in the last 3 weeks. So, he's kind of read optioning Henry because Henry's had 200-yard games in the last 3. And the few bad games he had throughout the season, one of them was against Baltimore. It wasn't a bad game, but it was a bad Derrick Henry game. Like, he only put up, I think, 23 points. But, usually you expect 200 yards now. That's our new expectation for him. But I just like leaning to Tannehill with A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown's been finding gaps in defenses. He's looked really, really good. And the last time they played this season, it was 22.9 DK points for Tannehill, which when I look at, averages to price, I always look and compare the running back. So he outscored Derrick Henry that week. So I'm kind of playing that odds, and you'll see that I kind of went away from Henry if I could down in the running back section. But I think you can go to Lamar or Big Ben too. I think they're both great quarterbacks. They'll be the popular two. We both leaned away from them, which is kind of the way we like to play it, is to get a little different away from the popular two quarterbacks. But I'll run over to running back. Nice pun. David Montgomery, and I found him kind of located in that really good area of running backs. And the reason I picked him is because I expect everybody around him to be the high-owned guys. You have Henry just above him. You got Kamara, who's on the COVID-19 list, which everybody should watch if they haven't learned that already. He has a chance to be back, but he has to be cleared on Saturday. So he literally has a 1 day, and he's lucky because they pushed the game to Sunday for him. They didn't push it, but they definitely scheduled it so that they had a chance to have Kamara back. But David Montgomery, the usage has been just crazy. He's been 31 touches last week, 34 the week, 3 weeks ago. He's getting all the red zone work. He had 9 receptions last week, so he's getting involved in the passing game. And Chicago's expected to be down, and they don't have another running back that they use very much. So New Orleans defense has been ranked number 1 against the run all season, but the last time they played, he actually had a pretty good game. I think 23 touches, put up 95 yards on the ground and 4 receptions. He didn't get in the end zone, which kind of killed his value overall. But I mean, he's played well, and the usage is enough to warrant, dodging some of those higher owned guys around him and try to play him to say that he might be the one to go off in this stack, especially if you're taking a Drew Brees stack. So that's kind of where I went with that. But watch the Kamara news, guys. That could be danger.
Yeah. No, like you said, this is the big one. With last Saturday was a bunch of receivers. Sunday we got a lot of running backs. I'm going to what I think is still a safe play. You basically talked about why it's still a safe play, and that's Derrick Henry. I mean, last week against Houston was a pretty fun game to watch. What an ending too.
Yeah, that's good.
Kick off the side there and bounces in. That was wild. But 2 TDs, 250 yards last week. he broke 2,000 yards on the season there, which is pretty exciting for him. But I mean, this will be a fun game to watch at the end of the day. I just think though, if they want to win and make a bit push, I mean, Derrick Henry's gonna have to become a big, right? Like I was saying, you said it already. Bad game for him is still 23 points. I mean, I think he won't have that bad of a game. So if he gets 30, you're still sitting good. But I mean, lots of great options here. You can interchange this position. I mean, have probably go three running backs this week. You know what I mean? Instead of the 4 there. But yeah, I'll jump into my.
Sorry, my dryer is going nuts right now.
I can't hear it, so we're good. But yeah, jumping into receiving, I'm sticking in with the similar options here and going Marquise Brown. I believe it was, let's see, what did it do? 5 for 8 last week and 2 TDs. So, and that's only 41 yards. But I was going through some of his stats and consistently only putting in 50 yards, but always getting the TD there. I think he has 8 this year. So, reasonable option, cheaper side, especially if you're going to be splurging on the running backs. And if he can get you the TD, you'll be sitting pretty, because he won't be putting up many yards. But that seems to be the trend with him as a receiver there. But what are you thinking, Tarin?
I think that's a Baltimore receiver trend. I think in Baltimore, Lamar doesn't throw enough to give guys 100-yard games, because he only throws 150 yards a game typically. So you don't usually see a burst game. You'll see touchdown throws. So I went to one of Ben's receivers. This is going to be the chalky guy there. It's Deontay Johnson. I think you can pick any of the 3 here when you pick from, the arsenal of the Steelers. You got Claypool, you got Johnson, you have Juju. I think they're all good, but Johnson's the target volume guy. And when you're playing DraftKings, right, you're looking for guys that are going to have receptions. He could put up 12 for 70 yards and a touchdown, but he's like 12 is 12 points. That's a free 12 points because he gets the ball so much. But he was averaging like 15 targets there for a 3-week span. And Ben, if you watch some of the games, Ben dumps to him, because the new system in Pittsburgh is 2.5 second dropbacks for Ben. He's getting the ball out of his hands in like 2 seconds because they're so scared he's going to get hit, and he's not very good under pressure. So they're just making him quick throw to these fast, good wide receivers. And Deontay Johnson's his favorite out of the bunch, although he did have a case of the drops every 3rd week of the year, I think. So he was struggling a lot with that. And then they benched him in one game. But I think he's still in playoff football. You're not going to see the same benching and pushing guys out of the game, especially your top receiver. I do want to mention Darnell Mooney here. If you don't go to David Montgomery, he saw, I think, 12 targets last week over Allen Robinson for 90 yards. I think it was 11 for 90. So interesting. AJ Brown, probably my favorite wide receiver outside of Deontay Johnson, with Tannehill, and then Emmanuel Sanders there to stack up with Breeze, I think is interesting, because I don't know what the Michael Thomas news will be. I don't think they're going to bring him off, but there's a chance, I guess, they could pop him off IR this week. But yeah, I'll roll over to the tight end position, and I went to a Cleveland guy. I had to find a Cleveland guy somewhere. Austin Hooper. He saw 5 targets pretty consistently. I don't like the Browns that much going into this game. They almost lost last week to Pittsburgh's backups. Pittsburgh sat a good majority of their guys, and their backup QB started, and they still almost beat them. And so now they're going to bring a rested TJ Watt back into the game to rush Baker Mayfield. I think that just spells disaster here. But I think what that means is that Baker's going to need to get the ball out quick. And who do you get the ball out quick to? Your running backs or your tight ends? You typically, or maybe Jarvis Landry, but I think that's Hooper's role. He'll get that dump off work, the 5-yard receptions over and over, just so that they can move the chains. So that's kind of my lean there. Jared Cook, another good stacking option with Breeze. I saw, he's kind of resurging lately, but I'll pass it to you in case that was your stacking option.
That was my stacking option, Jared Cook. I found it interesting. He has the most TDs this year on the Saints. Yeah. Caught 4 or 5 last week, 43 yards. Seems to be the trend with our tight ends, get 4 or 5 receptions and 40, 50 yards, you're good to go. I'm just going with this because he seems to be a reliable option for Breeze, especially with, their receivers. They have quite a few first years or rookies or whatever it may be in
Yeah.
that lineup. So a little bit interesting. Just feel like with playoffs too, you're going to be probably rather safe. But yeah, and then moving on to my defense here and sticking with the trend, I just went with the Saints. I just think this is going to be the lopsided one, and that you're just hoping for the win. Don't really know if they'll get you the defensive touchdown or not, but maybe sack Trubisky and maybe get a defensive fumble recovery or something, get me my 12 points and get out of there. But what are you looking at here on defense?
It's a dangerous game for the Saints to sack Trubisky just in case BDN has to come into the game and take him to the Super Bowl. So it's danger. But I don't know. I just said mix and match the Steelers and the Saints. I think these are both matchups that these guys can exploit. Two of the best D-line, and especially really good at getting to the passer. So, a couple guys like Baker, he hasn't had the best O-line. I mean, it's been pretty good, but hopefully he has all his guys back, like Wyatt Teller on the O-line, and that should help mitigate TJ Watt. But if you watch the Steelers defense, they're just too quick for any O-line. They just get by them. They just have too many stars up front. And the Saints are the same. Cam Jordan's came on hot. And I think that's just two, D-lines that are mismatched against those O-lines. I did like Cleveland initially. I did think about it because if you can get a good pass rush, and they do have one with Myles Garrett, I think you can make Ben make mistakes. And Ben has been really prone to mistakes when he's being rushed a lot. And when he lost an O-lineman 2 weeks ago, he got rushed too much and he was throwing picks and he looked horrible. So, if they can get through to him, I just don't think they have the team to do that. But, they're a good team to take a shot on because they're way cheaper. They're 2,500 versus the 3K and the other two. And it could get you a little different in that game. But yeah, don't sleep on the big guns here. If Kamara and Henry are in, you might just lose if you don't have them both, because Kamara could put up 5 TDs and Henry 300 yards. So just, take it as you will.
Yeah, no, a good point. It's going to be an interesting one, but that was our first playoff ones ever. So if you like them, like the video, hopefully let us know who you're taking. If you enjoyed the videos, give us a subscribe. That'd be sick. And we'll see you in round 2.